In what seems to be a devastating news from Rome, it is finally confirmed that Pope Francis, the voice of the poor, who became a fierce resistance to the reshaping of the Catholic Church, died on Easter Monday at the age of 88, the Vatican has finally announced. The Pope passed away the morning after the holiest day in the Christian year, when the world's 1.3 billion Catholics celebrate the resurrection of the poor, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Despite his poor health, Francis was seen in a number of times in public at the Vatican during the Holy Week, culminating in an Easter Sunday appearance where he delighted crowds at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The Pope's death was announced with deep sorrow by Cardinal Kelvin Farrell, the Vatican Camerlengo, who said Francis died at 7:35 a.m. local time, that is 1:35 a.m. ET. Until a new pope is chosen, Farrell acts as the head of the Vatican. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite mercy and love of the Trine God, the statement said. Francis suffered severe health crisis this year and was hospitalized for 5 weeks with double pneumonia. His doctors said later that the Pope was so critically ill the staff considered stopping his treatment so he could die. But the Pope recovered from the worst illness and was discharged last month and was convalescing at his residence at Casa Santa Marta at the Vatican. The Vatican said as recently as last week that he was improving. While he did not lead any major services during the holiday period, the Pope could continue to hold engagements up to Easter Sunday, when he met briefly with US President Lled Vance. Francis gave the traditional Easter blessing from the balcony of St. Petersburg, although an aide read out the Obi et Obi on his behalf. He also rode the Pope mobile through the crowds gathered at the square, stopping several times to bless babies handed to him. Vance said on X on Monday that he was happy to have seen the Pope, though he was obviously very ill. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him, Vance said. The Pope's tireless advocacy for migrants saw him sharply criticize US President Donald Trump's immigration deportation policies in the months before his death. Francis, whose pontificate was counterweight to the rise of nationalist populism, often found himself under fire from powerful conservative Catholic forces in the US. And as a matter of fact, condolences and tributes started to pour in shortly after the announcement was made. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni called the Pope a great man and a great pastor, and said she had the privilege of enjoying his friendship. his advice and his teachings, which never failed, even in moments of trial and suffering. Meloni said the Pope asked the world once again for the courage to change direction, to follow a path that does not destroy, but cultivates, repairs, protects, adding that she will walk in this direction. Javier Milei, the president of Francis's home country, Argentina, said that having been able to know him in his kindness and wisdom was true honor for him. Milei has clashed with the Pope in the past over his country's economic policies. On Monday, he said differences seem minor today. Britain's King Charles said the Pope will be remembered for his compassion, for his concern for the unity of the Church, and for his tireless commitment to common causes of all the people of faith, and to those of the goodwill who work for the benefit of others. Charles and Queen Camilla paid a surprise visit to the Pope Francis less than 2 weeks ago during a state visit to Italy that coincided with the British royal's 20th wedding anniversary. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on X, the Pope inspired millions far beyond the Catholic Church with his humility and love, so pure for the less fortunate. India Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he was deeply pained by the news. Mourners began to arrive to St. Peter's Square shortly after the announcement was made, with many seen praying at the plaza, which was still decorated for Easter. Some appeared to be in tears. The Pope's death on Monday triggered the state of 9 days of mourning, with a burial traditionally taking place between the fourth and the sixth day after death. People gathered in St. Peter's Square after the death of Pope Francis was announced by the Vatican. Death comes after the long hospital stay. The death of Pope Francis, who became the first Latin American pontiff in 2023 and was one of the oldest popes in the church's history. May the Pope rest in the Lord.